The unique designer bathtub with an equally unique finish is completely ready. Its cost price is only $50. Such a bathtub can be finished, for example, to look like natural marble, or it can look like it's made of artificial stone. The possibilities for creative, inexpensive finishes for such bathtubs are practically limitless. I believe that anyone can make such a bathtub since no special skills are required. Making them in a garage can even be turned into a highly profitable small business, with impressive profitability reaching up to 1000% profit. Of course, there were both major and minor mistakes along the way. Overall, the project's ending will surprise many. So if you watch this video until the end, I think you definitely won't regret it. You won't repeat mistakes that are better not repeated, and you'll be able to avoid pointless expenses and unnecessary work, saving even more. Viewers of the Pesniyashi Koshyaka channel will be the first to learn this important information. For those who don't know about this project yet, I'll quickly bring you up to speed. I'll quickly review the key points for those who already know. Let's go through everything step by step. Hello everyone. I took just a little bit of XPS foam. XPS is a type of foam. I made the sheets rough on both sides. I temporarily glued plaster fiberglass mesh to one side of two sheets. With the mesh attached, the fragile sheets can be bent. I glued two sheets together lengthwise and marked the desired width of the bathtub bottom. I trimmed the lower edges of the curved sheets to ensure their slope. I glued the curved sheets to the bottom sheets. I installed temporary braces made of timber. I adjusted the size and glued in the sheets for the right and left sides. I put the cutoffs from the curved sheets to use. I marked the top line of the sides in a simple way. I trimmed the sides to the correct height. Very quickly, I ended up with a lightweight structure, and I was satisfied with its shape. To give a slight curve to the right and left sides, I temporarily glued 4 horizontal bars with adhesive foam. To give the bottom a slope for water drainage, I installed temporary vertical bars. The slope turned out just right. I flipped the future bathtub over. I mixed the waterproofing compound. I applied the waterproofing only to the seams because this type of foam, called extruded polystyrene foam, does not absorb water and therefore does not let it through. But polyurethane construction adhesive foam can let water through. I'm preparing templates from plaster fiberglass mesh. I applied a reinforcing layer using a store-bought insulation mix and fiberglass mesh. After the mixture set, the strength of the product increased, but the sides were still not strong enough. I applied waterproofing on the inside. I prepared fiberglass mesh patterns again. I reinforced it from the inside. The thickness of the reinforcing layer is only a few millimeters, so only a small amount of mixture was needed. I adjusted the shape of one of the sides using a temporary board, which I installed while the layer was still fresh. When the mixture set, I turned the bathtub over and started finishing the surface with cement putty. After the putty dried on the outside, I applied a store-bought finishing coat made of a mixture of colored sands mixed in an acrylic base. Very quickly, I ended up with this beauty. The moment of truth is coming. I'm pouring in the water. The body of this bathtub cost me only $30. That's just 2,500 Russian rubles, or only 90 of our Belarusian rubles. I decided to try not to spend more than 20 bucks on the finishing. Most of the seams are concentrated at the bottom of my bathtub. I wait a few hours. I didn't find any leaks. So, in order not to waste a lot of water and not to struggle with scooping it out since there's no drain yet, I considered the first test passed. I didn't notice any leaks from below, so there shouldn't be any higher up either. I'm priming the inside of the bathtub. I wait for the primer to dry and then start finishing the surface with cement putty. Specifically cement putty, not gypsum or acrylic, because those are very sensitive to moisture and quickly become unusable when exposed to water. I'm leaving a link to a very detailed video about all the steps taken to create the designer body of this bathtub below this video. If you haven't seen it yet and want to know all the details, you can watch it. Of course, finish watching this video first because I believe the information here is more important. I'm applying the first layer of putty. In the video about the body of this bathtub, I asked the viewers of the Pesniyashi Koshyaka channel for advice on the interior finishing. In the comments under that video, the caring global community offered many tips and solutions. After the first layer sets, I apply a second layer of putty. I smooth the surface using wide spatulas. I prime the set surface. With the third layer, I only fix the remaining flaws. Subscriber Kirill from Moscow suggested the most solutions. He has long been not only a friend of the channel, but also my friend. It turned out that working with cement putty is even more convenient than with gypsum or acrylic ones. Live and learn. So, my friend Kirill just showered me with advice. The first idea was to pour acrylic, which is used for restoring old bathtubs, into the tub. The second idea was to fill the inside of the tub with thick reinforced concrete. Another option is to pour it with an epoxy compound, laying natural pebbles on the epoxy. Coat it with enamel in several layers. Use wood-patterned vinyl film. Use PVC film for swimming pools. Lay mosaic tiles and grout the joints with epoxy grout. Get some enamel from the Gomselmash factory, and at the same time demonstrate what high-quality paint is used on our Belarusian combines. Cover the bathtub with thin wood veneer and varnish it. Cover it with linoleum. Use micro cement in the finishing. Finish it with river shells. Print mosaic tiles on a 3D printer and finish the bathtub with them. While the inside is drying, I turn the bathtub on its side. I believe that almost all the options suggested by Kirill and other concerned viewers are basically viable. But most of them are either expensive, very labor intensive, will make the product much heavier, or all of the above. First, I try to smooth the putty with a spatula, then with a float and abrasive mesh. I don't want to become a cabinet maker or a mosaic artist. Being a designer is enough for me. In the previous video about the bathtub frame, I covered only one side with a store-bought compound based on colored sands. This finishing material is only sold in large packages here. I used it to finish our sliding gates made of XPS foam. There was a little left over, but if you buy it specifically for the bathtub, it would be enough for 10 bathtubs. Otherwise, you'll have a lot left over. And nobody wants leftover material. Outside, I finished the second side of the bathtub to look like marble. A stained piece of drywall clearly showed that it's better to dive deeper into the marble process. After all, this is an experiment during which it's best to try different options, and I found videos of some truly incredible craftsmen originally from somewhere in the East. I'm trying to study and understand techniques that seem quite simple at first glance. I'm not original when it comes to making marble from putty. My fellow DIY bloggers have already used this cheap but impressive finishing technique in their projects. Maybe I'm only original in that I'm the first in the world to apply this coating to a homemade bathtub that's 90% made of foam board, and I do like being the first in the world. In my stash, I found an old putty knife of the right width and started practicing the movements I saw in helpful videos from Eastern masters. Sometimes I'm waiting in line to buy supplies or going on a long drive with my wife, and I think about how I could make better use of that time. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. So good news, because I found an easy, fun, and effortless solution, and that's thanks to today's sponsor, Free Cash. Free Cash is a global online platform which anybody can sign up to for free and actually make some real money while playing popular mobile games. Once you've signed up to Free Cash, you can browse through a variety of different games until you find a game that intrigues your interest, or you can answer some surveys. And by doing that, you get rewards, which are real cash, crypto, or gift cards. I'm gonna choose Bubble Blast. Every time I open this app and play, I can earn real cash depending on how many times I play. If you had any doubts, this company is completely legitimate, with over 260,000 reviews and a 4.8 star rating on Trustpilot. So let's say I've been driving and playing and earned $20, and now I want to cash out. How do you do it? Very quick and easy. You have multiple options to choose from to withdraw anytime. PayPal, Amazon gift cards, and more. Download Free Cash today by using my link in the description or scan the QR code on your screen, and you will be rewarded with $5 for choosing your first offer. It's $5 just to click on my link and download Free Cash. So imagine how much money you can make in your free time. Sign up and choose a game and you get $5. Enjoy. Putty knife, along with some other putty knives and a few more tools, was left behind by the workers we hired to renovate our living room. After working for a day and a half and getting in advance, they just seemed to vanish into thin air, even leaving behind their rubber slippers. You can tell that this putty knife has either leveled or, on the contrary, messed up many hundreds of square meters of surface. It clearly holds some invisible working power, which is supposed to help me. I was really hoping for that. What if those finishers were actually abducted by aliens? In our post-Soviet space, we've gotten so used to builders often disappearing after getting an advance payment that, in the case of a real threat to them, we might not be as vigilant as we should be. We wouldn't even try to rescue them from the captivity of alien enemies, because we're sure that the real culprit is the bottle. In my first homemade marble, I decided to use only black pigment, limiting myself to just shades of gray. The first thing I decided to do was draw a line to check and adjust the orientation. Of course, I mean orientation in space. I'll try to follow this line with the putty knives. Everyone knows that many creative people often drink a lot, and now I realize why. It's much easier for someone who drinks to create these kinds of natural lines than for someone who doesn't. Only sober people are drawn to everything straight and even. I don't drink very often, so my line turned out just average. The first known ceramic bathtub in history was found in India. It's 5,500 years old, so our Indian brothers loved not only the Kama Sutra. During excavations in Pompeii, they found a bronze bathtub. This bathtub made of EPS is not much different in shape from its ancestors. Bathtubs became very popular in Rome. The Egyptian queen Cleopatra loved to take baths. Not only in water, but also in milk and herbal decoctions. In Europe during the Middle Ages, bathing was considered a sin. People washed themselves very rarely. This led to terrible epidemics. I've heard that even nowadays, the situation there hasn't improved much. In the Ottoman Empire, people loved baths, and they were often made of marble. In ancient Greece, people took baths sitting down. Moreover, for women, the bath was filled with hot water, and for men, with cold water. Perhaps this was a way to try to limit birth rates. In Russia, baths started being used widely in the 15th century. At first, they were made of wood. And in the 17th century, due to a shortage of wood, they were replaced with steel ones. During the reign of Peter the Great, cast iron bathtubs appeared. They were very expensive and only a few people could afford them. Bathtubs became affordable only a century later. In fact, quite recently. That's why I was enthusiastically thinking that I was doing a very good deed, trying to make a designer bathtub decorated to look like marble, affordable for everyone. I cover everything on top with a thin layer of white putty. Who knows, maybe in 100 years there will be a legend that Yasha Kosyak, an architect from Great Belarus, showed the whole world how to make a designer bathtub for just 50 American bucks. That's what I love about physical labor. So many different thoughts come to mind. There's some mixed putty left, so to make sure it doesn't go to waste, I'm continuing to practice. The thing about cement putty is that it's easy to work with for the first 3 days after application. After that, this kind of putty hardens a lot and becomes like stone, like concrete. And the strength of concrete is exactly what we need. This isn't an ad for cement putty at all. First, I went over the entire inner surface with an abrasive mesh. The results were immediate. Then I switched to 180 grit sandpaper. This is exactly the sandpaper the workers who disappeared asked me to buy. If you try this yourself, use protective gloves for your hands. Contact with finishing materials can irritate your skin. Leveling work is very rewarding because you can see the results right away. This winter in our usually not very cold Belarusian region has been very harsh. I have to let my very old dog into the garage to warm up quite often. Even the animal seems noticeably interested in my creation. It looks like even the dog understands that this is something of a miracle. Just a couple of days ago, the owner brought 6 sheets of foam, 2 rather small bags, and a small roll of mesh into the garage. Without much effort, I enjoyed working a little magic, and now a monumental creation has appeared. It's something you could even dance around, because after all, it's all about the technology. There comes a time when one person will work up a sweat trying to earn enough for prestigious architectural concrete bathtubs, for which those scoundrel designers shamelessly demand $5,000. Or save up for trendy artificial stone bathtubs, the prices of which are highly inflated. And others will watch the Pesniyashi Koshika channel, take $50, have a good time, and very soon they'll have a bathtub that even oligarchs would envy. So tell me, why work for designers when you can work for yourself? In my marble, it looks like I actually ended up mixing several techniques I saw on YouTube. For example, I couldn't figure out how the master spread one batch of putty so far with a spatula, while my strokes only covered about 40 centimeters each. Ideally, it would be best to spread the stroke across the entire side in one motion. Because of this, the joints between the strokes remain visible. The whole surface is smoothed over with white putty on top. That's why when working with sandpaper, I'm kind of revealing the texture. It's very easy to overdo it here and sand through the marble texture. In short, the process here is a bit more painstaking than decorating to look like brick or natural stone, which I applied to my previous foam products. There were quite a few doubts and criticisms in the comments. As I understand it, they came from people who don't believe in the strength of composite based on XPS. I always emphasize this is a composite that also gains from the sandwich panel effect. And the fact that this bathtub is made of 90% XPS, which you could say is like foam plastic, doesn't mean that the bathtub has the same strength as foam plastic. My first attempt at a marble finish turned out like this. Don't judge too harshly. Of course, I could hide behind my current status as an intuitive designer. For example, I could say, I'm an artist, that's how I see marble. But it's clear that perfection is still a long way off. There's still work to be done. But I thought, these are just patterns after all. They have no function except for decoration. If I just arrange them more properly, they'll be more pleasing to the eye. At the same time, the cost won't change. And since the main theme is a budget designer bathtub, I decided to leave it at that. During this time, I got the garage workshop so dusty where a precision tool, a 3D printer, recently appeared that for my second attempt with marble, I'll only be ready to work outdoors when it gets warmer. But if you practice a little, it's actually not that hard. Primer comes into play again. And if you make a bathtub like this, for example, in an apartment during renovations, then that's exactly what the doctor ordered. After all, one dusty process doesn't get in the way of another dusty process. But in the garage, I had to spend some time cleaning up, especially since the dog reacted to all this mess with a silent reproach. One of the skeptics wrote that I didn't make a bathtub but a model. Another promised to believe it if such a bathtub filled with water would last for a day. A third is sure that when I sit on the edge, the bathtub will fall apart. The moment of truth is coming very soon, just wait. I bought the cheapest bathtub siphon. I picked a hole saw drill bit of the right diameter. It turned out to be the same one I ruined by hitting a screw while making a multi-story birdhouse, so I didn't mind using it to drill the bathtub. When making a bathtub like this, we're not risking anything. The cost is next to nothing. We made it, checked it out, and turned it around. If you don't like it, it'll work in the garden. If you don't have one, give it to someone who does. They'll appreciate it. The bathtub also needs a base. For the base, I decided to use leftover pieces of foam from previous projects. The bottom of the bathtub turned out concave for better water drainage, but the base, on the contrary, needs to be as flat as possible. There also needs to be space underneath for the siphon. That's why a base is necessary. With the first layer of foam scraps, I repeat the shape of the bottom. I decided to try transitioning to a flat surface by adjusting the layer of adhesive foam. Here I made a mistake by not wetting the surfaces beforehand. The adhesive likes moisture, and I also used too much foam. The base for a bathtub like this can easily be made from wood and metal, but this is probably the cheapest and simplest option. There's already a bathtub in the house, and this one is planned to be installed outdoors. It will complement our foam land, and wood outdoors is a tricky and not very progressive material. I'm already pre-wetting the second part and applying less foam. The second part started to set much faster than the first. The foam in the second part of the base has fully cured, and in the first part, it only hardened around the edges. XPS doesn't let water vapor through, and without access to moisture, the foam can take a very long time to harden, so I tore off and re-glued the first part, this time wetting it. I do the precise finishing of the base with a handsaw, so basically, I didn't really need to worry about changing the layer of foam. I could have glued the XPS however I wanted and leveled it all at once with a handsaw, saving some adhesive foam. But I always try to find the simplest solution, which might not actually turn out to be that simple. The finishing touches of a sculptor on XPS. Everything is solid and reliable. Now it's surgically precise. Well, almost. I've already realized that if the bathtub doesn't fall apart during testing, I'll definitely stay within 50 bucks, and this could even become a highly profitable garage business. All it takes is to slightly improve the quality of workmanship, and that's just a matter of effort. I think you could easily sell such bathtubs for 500 bucks. That is, for 40,000 Russian rubles, or 1,500 of our Belarusian rubles, and that's much cheaper than any designer bathtub. At the same time, the profitability would be no joke, up to 1,000%. How do you like that, Elon Musk? At first, I could easily handle making 10 of these bathtubs a month myself, and then comes scaling up the business, my wife, my sons, my daughter. I'm giving this idea to small businesses. I'm feeling generous today. Then everything follows the usual plan. Of all the considered options for interior finishing, I like the acrylic bath pouring method the most, which is used for restoring old bathtubs. But when I checked how much it costs online, I immediately realized that I definitely wouldn't be able to fit the finishing into 20 bucks. And then I came across spray paint for bathtubs and ceramics. I didn't even know such a thing existed. It's much cheaper than acrylic. They actually had it at the nearest big hardware store. I went there, bought 2 cans. I covered the gate with plastic. I'm dusting off the surface. I borrowed my wife's nail polish remover. I'm degreasing the surface. When I started painting, I smelled a very familiar paint odor. The paint that was often used before acrylics became common. After reading the label on the can, it turned out to be regular alkyd paint. I never imagined that painting with small spray cans could create such a high concentration of fumes in the air. Luckily, I had an old respirator on hand. That's why the spray cans never started talking to me. A standard can contains 520 ml of paint, along with the gas that helps spray it. In reality, there's only about 350 grams of paint in a can. For the price of 1 spray can, you can buy a can of good alkyd paint weighing from 1 to 2 kilograms depending on the manufacturer. If I had known earlier, I would have just bought a regular can of alkyd paint right away and saved even more. By painting the bathtub with several reliable layers of alkyd paint, we get another layer of waterproofing. The first one, let me remind you, provides a completely watertight seal. On the outside, I cover the bathtub with regular acrylic varnish for stone, brick, and concrete. It's a well-tested all-weather option. I'm not too concerned with finishing the base. I can't wait to move on to testing. And there's also alkyd varnish. If I had known earlier that these paints and varnishes were suitable for bathtubs, I would have painted the interior to look like marble. Without putting too much effort into perfecting it, the traces of imperfect work by stonemasons would have made it look even more authentic. One of the huge advantages of this kind of bathtub is that you can move it even by yourself. I haven't installed the overflow yet since I still don't know which side will be the front. I read so many comments that I was afraid to test it in the garage. Why did you scare me like that? Now I'll have to do it out here in the cold. You can save money on the fittings in a cool designer bathtub. The blue plug gives it a retro vibe. After all, I'm a designer now, and that's how I see style. I forgot how to calculate the volume of containers of this shape, so let's figure it out together using a nitrate bucket. The first bucket, the second bucket. I'm pouring warm water. The third bucket. The fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one, the seventh one, the eighth one, the ninth one, the 10th one, the 11th one, the 12th one, the 13th one, the 14th one, the 15th one, the 16th one, the 17th one, the 18th one. I'm tired of carrying it. The outdoor faucet is shut off for the winter. The 19th one, the 20th one, the 21st one, the 22nd one. If it were summer, I would definitely take a swim, but I've caught a cold. Have some pity. The 23rd one. A total of 250 liters. That's the volume of a very large store-bought bathtub, and it looks like just as much more could still fit. I definitely overdid it with the volume. But this is a designer bathtub for the pseudo-rich, and such bathtubs shouldn't be small, so I'll do a full test with 500 liters when it gets warmer. Sorry about that. And I'll probably release it as a separate short video. I did something similar about our mini pool made from XPS. It's ready for its 4th season. It's evening now, but the water is still warm. In a designer bathtub made of concrete or artificial stone, the water would have started freezing a long time ago. So, to make sure you don't miss the most detailed tests of this bathtub after real use, with all the data and comments, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel Pesni Yashi Koshyaka. Subscribe to Rutube, the VK Group, TikTok, and Zen. All the links are below the video. Click more and you'll be kept fully informed. Let there be peace all over the world. Thank you. At the beginning of the video, I promised to tell you about the big and small mistakes. The big mistake is me. And the small one is that it's better to recess the drain a little bit into the bottom surface. A couple of drops of water don't drain out. And about the unexpected end of the project. For those who doubted it, it's truly unexpected.